What if I told you that something as simple as the way your mom walks from the couch to the kitchen, or how your grandfather steps off a curb, could be the difference between safety and a life-changing injury? It sounds dramatic, I know, but I'm not exaggerating, because every year millions of older adults end up in emergency rooms, not because of disease, not because of accidents, but because of one bad fall. And here's the scariest part. Most of those falls don't come out of nowhere. The warning signs were there, in plain sight, just hidden in the way they walked. Maybe you've seen it too, that one shaky step, that little shuffle, holding onto the wall a bit more than usual. Slower than last week. You notice it, but you brush it off. They're just tired, you think, or it's part of getting old. But what if it isn't? What if it's a silent cry for help? What if that change in walking, the kind we often ignore, is actually your chance to step in and protect them from something devastating? This is why today's video is so important, because falls don't just break bones. They break confidence, they steal independence. They create a chain reaction that, for many families, changes everything. One minute you're planning a Sunday dinner, the next you're sitting beside a hospital bed. But it doesn't have to be this way. Today I'm going to walk you through 5 of the most effective doctor-recommended walking techniques that can prevent falls before they ever happen. These aren't vague tips. These are the same strategies top doctors use to keep their own aging parents upright, balanced, and moving with confidence. And the best part, you don't need fancy equipment or medical knowledge. Just a few small adjustments in how your loved one walks and the awareness to catch the signs early. So please, don't just watch this video. Let it change how you see the people you love. Let it open your eyes to the quiet signs their body might already be showing you. And hey, before we dive in, do something powerful. Type, "I'm here to protect my loved one," in the comments below. Let others know they're not alone in this journey. We're building a community right here on Elder Talks Daily, where love meets knowledge and where every step matters. Let's get into it. Now let's start with something you probably have seen, but might not have thought much about. Picture this: an elderly man, maybe someone like your dad or a neighbor down the street, carefully making his way across the living room. He's walking slow, cautious, with his feet close together. Every step looks intentional. You might even think, good, he's being extra careful. But here's the twist. That careful, tight-footed walk, it's actually one of the riskiest ways for him to move. See, when older adults start walking with their feet close together, what we call a narrow base, they're unknowingly reducing their body's ability to stay balanced. It's like trying to stand a ladder on one leg. The moment the floor tilts or the wind blows, it's game over. On the other hand, when you walk with your feet a little farther apart, shoulder width, your body becomes more stable, just like a camera tripod. 3 legs spread wide, holding steady even when the ground isn't perfect. And that's exactly what the wide base rule is all about. When we were younger, balance came naturally. Our muscles fired quicker, our joints responded faster, and even a sudden misstep could be corrected in milliseconds. But as we age, the body slows down. The margin for error shrinks. And the best way to buy back some of that lost stability is by widening the base. Now here's where families get it wrong. And it's no one's fault, really. We see our loved ones walking tight and slow and assume they're just being careful. But that stiffness, that narrow stance, it's not caution, it's vulnerability. It puts them at greater risk if the ground shifts or if their body makes one tiny miscalculation. So what do? Next time you're walking with your loved one, on a morning stroll, or even just around the kitchen, gently guide them to keep their feet shoulder width apart. Tell them, walk like you're ready to catch a gust of wind. It doesn't need to be exaggerated, just enough to plant their body with purpose. Even a few extra inches between the feet can dramatically increase balance and confidence. It gives them a wider margin of safety, so if their knee gives out for a second, or if they trip on a rug, their body's already in a better position to catch itself. It's one of the simplest shifts, and yet it could be the reason they don't end up in an ER. But walking wide isn't everything. Because while your loved one's feet are on the move, where their eyes are looking could be making things worse. Let's talk about that next. Now, after getting the feet positioned right with a stable, wide base, there's something most people completely overlook, and that's what's happening from the neck up. Because here's a truth not many realize. Where your loved one's eyes are looking can make or break their balance. Let me paint a familiar picture for you. Imagine your grandmother walking through the hallway. Every step, her eyes are glued to the floor, watching every inch, studying the carpet. She's not rushing. She's being very careful. But despite all that focus, she's wobbling, off balance. Why? Because staring down at your feet while walking doesn't protect you. It disorients you. See, your eyes aren't just for spotting obstacles. They're part of your body's built-in balance system. And when you focus too closely on your feet, it throws off your head position, your spine alignment, your rhythm, even your inner ear balance. Your body starts walking like it's nervous, like it doesn't trust itself. That's a recipe for a fall. That's why doctors use what's called the 10-foot gaze technique. It's simple but powerful. Instead of looking down, you look ahead, roughly 8 to 10 feet in front of you. That gives the brain time to process what's coming, adjust the stride, and stay upright and confident. It's like driving. You don't stare at the bumper, you look down the road. That's how you keep control. But here's the problem. Many of us were taught that watching your step means literally watching our feet. It feels cautious, but it's misleading. In reality, constantly looking down tightens the neck, pulls the body forward, and increases the chance of catching a toe or misjudging distance. So what should you do? Start small. When walking together, gently guide your loved one by saying something like, "Look ahead. See that lamp over there? Let's walk toward it." You're not just helping them walk, you're helping their brain stay one step ahead of every crack, bump, and shadow. And if they're worried about tripping, reassure them. Your feet know what to do. Let your eyes guide the path, and your body will follow. It might take a little getting used to, but this one habit change can bring back confidence they didn't even realize they'd lost. And speaking of confidence, there's one more hidden signal we can't ignore. The pace, because how fast or slow they're walking. That's the body speaking in plain language, if we're willing to listen. Let's talk about something that seems so simple, so ordinary, that most people never think to question it. Walking speed. You might not think twice about how fast or how slow your loved one walks from the front door to the mailbox or from the kitchen table to the bathroom. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. Speed tells a story. And not just any story. It can be the earliest warning sign that something in the body is struggling, or a reassuring clue that things are working just fine. Picture this. 2 seniors walking down the same path. One is shuffling slowly, almost dragging one foot, taking cautious, hesitating steps. The other is walking with a gentle but steady rhythm, not rushed, not sluggish, just a smooth, confident pace. Now ask yourself, who's at greater risk of falling? Your gut might say, the fast one, because they could trip. But the truth, it's often the one moving too slowly. Here's what the science says. Doctors measure something called gait speed, which is simply how long it takes someone to walk a short distance, usually around 10 feet. If it takes longer than about 10 seconds, that's considered a slow gait speed. And that slowness has been directly linked to frailty, cognitive decline, even heart issues. Why? Because walking isn't just about legs. It's coordination. It's balance, it's brain function, muscle strength, and joint stability, all working together in real time. When walking becomes too slow, it can signal that something deeper is starting to fade. But here's the kicker. Many families see this slow pace and think, good, they're being careful. And sure, sometimes that's true. But if you notice the slowness is new or getting worse, it could mean the body is having to compensate for something it no longer trusts. Now, I'm not saying speed means safety either, because on the flip side, if someone's walking too fast, like they're in a rush to get it over with, or their steps are jerky and unsteady, that can signal imbalance too. They might be trying to outrun their own anxiety about walking, and that can lead to missteps. So what we're really looking for is that sweet spot. Not rushed, not dragging, just a smooth, comfortable, and consistent rhythm. That's what we call the safe gait speed zone. Here's something practical you can try. Pick a hallway or a flat, safe space in your home. Mark out 10 feet. You can use masking tape or a rug as a guide. Ask your loved one to walk it at a normal, comfortable pace. No rushing, no holding back. Just walk like they would if they were getting a glass of water. Time them with your phone. If they take more than 10 seconds, it's worth keeping an eye on or even bringing it up at their next checkup. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means you're being proactive. You're listening to what their body's telling you before it speaks through injury. And if they do take longer, start incorporating short walks into the day. Nothing extreme. Just little regular walks to help build strength and restore confidence. Because small steps, taken regularly, can rebuild trust in their body, and that trust changes everything. Now, there's another element of walking that almost nobody thinks about, but it's just as important, and it has nothing to do with the feet at all. Let's take a closer look at the arms and how they can either save or sabotage a steady step. Let's shift focus for a moment, away from the legs, the feet, the eyes, and bring our attention to something that's often completely overlooked: the arms. That's right. The way your loved one moves or doesn't move, their arms while walking can tell you a lot, and it can either be helping their balance or quietly working against it. Think about it. Have you ever watched someone walk with a confident stride? Even if they're older, you can see a natural rhythm in their movement, their arms gently swinging by their sides. It just feels right. Now picture someone else walking with stiff arms glued to their body. No motion, no rhythm. Almost like they're carrying invisible suitcases. It feels off, because it is. See, arm swing is nature's stabilizer. It's your body's way of balancing itself as you move, like a metronome guiding a song. When your arms move freely, they counterbalance the steps you take, helping to maintain posture, keep rhythm, and correct tiny missteps you don't even notice. But when the arms are stiff, maybe from fear, arthritis, or holding on to something tightly, that natural rhythm disappears, and walking becomes robotic, unnatural, and ultimately unstable. Here's the science behind it. As you walk, your arms swing opposite your legs. Left leg forward, right arm forward, then switch. This cross-patterning helps the spine stay aligned, supports core muscle activation, and keeps your center of gravity in check. Without that gentle arm movement, the upper body becomes rigid. And when the upper body is rigid, every little trip or wobble becomes harder to recover from. Now here's where families often make a mistake. We assume that holding on to things tightly, a purse, a walker, the back of a chair, is safer. We encourage our loved ones to brace themselves, but in doing that, we may unintentionally be teaching them to lock up their arms and lose that natural rhythm that keeps them steady. Of course, for many older adults, assistive devices are necessary, and that's okay. But here's the key. If they use a cane, walker, or rollator, make sure it's one that allows for some arm movement. Look for models that encourage upright posture and free the opposite arm to move. And when they're not using a device, encourage them to loosen their arms. Not to the point of swinging wildly, but just enough to find that gentle sway. Let them practice around the house, arms relaxed, shoulders down, hands open. You can even walk with them and model it yourself. Let's walk like we're keeping rhythm with a favorite song. Because here's the thing, when your arms move, the body follows. The gait smooths out, the shoulders loosen, the hips open up, and most importantly, balance improves. It's such a simple detail, but it can be the difference between a nervous walk and a confident one. And now that we've covered how the body moves, let's wrap up with something just as important: where that body is walking, because environment shapes movement, and the path your loved one takes every day, whether familiar or unpredictable, can either help them stay safe or quietly set them up for a fall. Let me take you into a memory. Your mother, maybe years ago, used to take her evening walks through the garden. Same path every time. Past the rose bushes, down the side gate, around the fig tree, and back up the steps before the porch light clicked on. She loved it. She knew every bump in the stone, every twig to step over. Her body knew that path so well, it almost walked it without thinking. But lately, she stopped walking the garden trail. Maybe it's too far. Maybe she doesn't feel as steady anymore. Instead, she's pacing around the house, down the hall, around cluttered corners, over loose rugs, or out onto unfamiliar sidewalks. And that's where things start to get risky. See, when an older adult walks along a path that's familiar, their brain can relax. Their muscles know the rhythm. Their eyes anticipate what's ahead. But when the path becomes unfamiliar, or cluttered, or noisy, or uneven, the brain has to work harder. It has to scan constantly. It has to judge distance, lighting, surface texture, and possible obstacles all at once. That's called increased cognitive load, and it's no small thing. Because as the brain works harder to navigate the unknown, it leaves less room for balance. It's like trying to read a map and walk a tightrope at the same time. Suddenly, the steps get shorter. The body stiffens. One distraction, a pet running past, a shadow on the carpet, a noise outside, can break concentration and throw everything off. And here's a common mistake we make, even with the best intentions. We think variety is healthy. Let's try a new route, we say. It's good for the brain. And yes, for some people, variety is enriching. But when someone's already showing signs of unsteadiness, familiarity equals safety. Routine walking paths help their body feel in control again. Their muscles remember the rhythm. Their mind doesn't have to overthink every single step. So what can you do? Start by clearing a dedicated walking path indoors. A straight hallway, a loop around the living room. Remove anything that can be tripped over. Rugs, low stools, cords, clutter. Make sure it's well lit, especially in the early morning or evening. Natural light is best, but if that's not possible, soft white lighting with no shadows will do. And here's a tip that most people never think about. Use contrasting colors on stairs or edges. If your loved one has depth perception issues, they might not notice where one surface ends and another begins. A darker rug edge, a painted stair line, or even bright tape can help their brain register the change and step with confidence. And finally, if they enjoy walking outdoors, stick to places they already know. The garden path, the neighborhood sidewalk, the quiet corner of the park. Let them reconnect with those safe spaces. Let their body fall into the comfort of rhythm and repetition, because sometimes it's not about going farther, it's about going steadier. And steadiness comes from familiarity, from routine, from walking the same path until the body feels at home in its movement again. Now that we've covered how your loved one should walk, let's take a step back and talk about why this all truly matters. Because behind every tip, every technique, there's a deeper reason that hits closer to the heart. You know, there's something that happens inside you the first time you see someone you love stumble. Maybe it was your mom stepping off a curb and catching herself just in time. Or maybe it was your father halfway across the room, suddenly grabbing onto the armrest of a chair, eyes wide, heart racing, for a balance he used to have without thinking twice. It happens in a flash, but it stays with you. Because when an older adult stumbles, it's not just about a bruise or a scrape. It's about fear. It's about the look in their eyes afterward. The sudden realization that their body isn't as reliable as it used to be. It's about dignity. That slow, painful awareness that something so natural, so basic as walking, now comes with risk. And it's about independence. Because one fall doesn't just shake the body, it shakes the spirit. It's in those moments you start asking yourself the harder questions. How long before they can't walk alone? Should I be doing more? How do I protect them without making them feel like they've lost everything? But here's where the fear can shift. Because instead of living in a constant state of worry, what if we leaned into preparation instead? What if we didn't wait for the fall? What if we gave them simple tools, gentle adjustments to posture, vision, routine, that slowly but surely help them walk safer, stronger, and with more freedom? That's the gift these techniques offer. Not just better balance, but restored confidence. Not just fewer risks, but more control. Because when your loved one feels steady on their feet, they're not just less likely to fall, they're more likely to live. To go for that short walk again, to visit the garden, to say, I've got this, without hesitation. And you, yes, you watching this, have the power to make that happen. Take 15 minutes today, that's all. Watch how they walk. Are their steps short and cautious? Are they staring at the floor? Do their arms hang stiffly, or do they rely too heavily on furniture just to get across the room? Those little signs? They're not small, they're signals, and they're begging for someone to notice. You can be that someone. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't need a fancy degree. You just need love, patience, and the willingness to see what's really happening before it turns into an emergency. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, wondering if you're doing enough, I want you to hear this. You're not alone. This journey is hard, but every small step you take, every conversation, every hand held, every path cleared, makes a real, lasting difference in the life of someone you care about. You're showing up, you're learning, you're trying, and that means the world. Because at the end of the day, helping someone walk safely isn't just about avoiding a fall. It's about helping them stand tall, with dignity, with strength, and with hope. Let's take a moment to pull it all together, because by now you've learned not just how to see the risks, but how to change them. To quickly recap, we covered 5 powerful, doctor-recommended walking techniques that can help prevent falls in older adults. Techniques that are simple, but backed by real science and everyday experience. Walking with a wider base, so their steps feel rooted, not wobbly. Keeping their gaze 10 feet ahead to give the brain time to react and the body time to prepare. Staying within a healthy gait speed, not too fast, not too slow, but steady and confident. Maintaining natural arm swings to keep the body's rhythm flowing and balance in check. Walking familiar, clutter-free paths to reduce confusion and restore trust in every step. Each of these is a thread, and together they weave a safety net that could mean the difference between independence and injury, freedom and fear. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these walking habits have you noticed in someone you love? Or maybe there's one you never thought about until now. Have you seen signs of slow shuffling steps, stiff arms, or eyes glued to the floor? Share your story in the comments below. You never know, your experience could help another caregiver feel seen or help another family prevent a fall before it happens. And if this video gave you something valuable, maybe a new way to care, or even just the reassurance that you're not in this alone, do me a favor, tap that like button. It lets the platform know this topic matters, and it helps this video reach someone who might really need it right now. And if you want more gentle, practical, heart-centered advice just like this, make sure you hit subscribe to Elder Talks Daily. This is where we show up week after week with stories, strategies, and encouragement to help you care for the ones who once cared for you. Because every step your loved one takes safely is a step they take with your love behind it. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I know you've got a lot on your plate, and the fact that you're here, learning, listening, caring, that says everything. So until next time, stay strong, stay informed, and keep walking this journey with patience, purpose, and love. I'll see you in the next one.